Hi, I'm YK. Have you ever gotten an email from a Japanese client, read it 3 times, and still had no idea what they were actually saying? Sometimes it feels like the message is wrapped in 10 layers of polite packaging. You keep unwrapping, but never find the actual gift inside. Japanese business emails can feel like a mystery. They are so polite, so formal, you are not even sure if it's a yes or no. Today, let's decode the hidden language of Japanese business emails. Now, this isn't just because many Japanese professionals aren't fluent in English. It's because they're trying so hard to be polite that the message becomes even harder to understand. And that's when a small communication tragedy starts. First, let's explore what vague business emails actually sounds like. Things like, it might be difficult to move forward right now, but we'll keep it in mind for the future. Thank you very much for your proposal. We'll take it into careful consideration. Grammatically perfect. But if you are not receiving it, how would you feel? You might think, sounds positive, right? But in reality, it often means, we are probably not moving forward. It sounds polite, but honestly, these phrases are like the business version of, let's have lunch sometimes. You both know it's never happening. Next, let's dive into why saying no feels so hard in Japan. Japan is what's known as a high-context culture, where people are expected to read the air and communicate indirectly. That's why, even in business, saying no directly can feel incredibly difficult, especially when dealing with someone senior or external like a client. In Japanese culture, saying no can sound like you are rejecting them personally. So instead, we intend to say things like, I will respectfully consider it, or I will follow up later. Sometimes I wish there were an app that just translated polite emails into yes or no. Honestly, even as a Japanese person, I'd use it. Also, there's often an unspoken rule, don't decide things on your own. That's why phrases like, we'll take it back to the team becomes the default. They are not just vague, they're a way to protect harmony, hierarchy, and sometimes yourself. Now, let me share a personal story. What I like to call the trap of the soft yes. Back when I wasn't used to communicating with overseas clients, I once wrote something like, right now, it's difficult due to resources, but we'll reach out when it becomes a priority. I thought I was being polite, but the client saw it as, okay, this is still possible. They didn't read it as a polite no, they read it as a soft yes. They kept following up, but in my mind, I thought I'd already said no. In my head, I was being considerate, but actually, I just made them waste their time. In hindsight, clear no would have been far more respectful. A vague yes can steal someone's time and clarity. And it's not just me. Surveys of foreign companies in Japan often highlight the same frustrations. It's harder to get quick answers, and decisions can feel vague or unclear. So why does this vagueness persist? Let's look at how the system actually rewards it. You might be thinking, isn't that just indecisiveness? For a point, but I'd argue this isn't about personality. It actually comes down to two main reasons. The first is culture, the norm of protecting the relationship. Scholars call this face negotiation theory. The idea is that in some cultures, protecting face often takes priority over blunt honesty. In fact, research points out that this tendency is especially strong in East Asian cultures like Japan. So people tend to avoid conflict and soften their responses. That's why you often get replies like, we'll keep it in mind, or it might be a bit difficult at the moment, even if the answer is no. The second is structure, the issue of shared responsibility. In many Japanese companies, decisions go through layers of internal coordination, what we call nemawashi or ringi. This structure spreads out the risk and makes quick yes or no answers hard to give on the spot. So in that context, vagueness isn't just culture, it's a strategic. It buys time, avoids conflict, and keeps the wheels turning. It's a way to survive in a slow-moving system. That said, not all Japanese companies are like this. In startups and smaller firms, decisions are faster, and individuals are often trusted to make the call. In those places, unclear answers just don't work. The culture forces directness. So vagueness isn't uniquely Japanese. It's what happens when culture and the structure collide and the people adapt to survive. You can't change cultural habits overnight, but sometimes just being aware of the context and asking a little more clearly can make a big difference. For instance, here are a few polite ways to nudge the conversation forward. Just to clarify, should we consider this a no-go for now? Is there a specific timeline or condition for revisiting this? Is there anything blocking this internally? These kinds of phrases can help bring out a real message without sounding pushy. And if the silence continues, maybe that's your sign to close the loop on your end and move on. That shift in mindset could save you a lot of time and a lot of energy. Alright, so today we talked about vague and polite Japanese business emails. Have you ever gotten a reply like, "We'll get back to you" or "We'll keep it in mind"? Did it feel like a yes or just a soft no? Behind these vague messages is a mix of kindness, hierarchy, and culture. It's like watching endless trailers without ever seeing the film. Soft no's exist everywhere, but in Japan, politeness and group decision-making make them almost an art form. So I'm curious, in your culture, how do people say no politely? Do you use a soft no or go straight for a clear one? If you had a similar moment, I'd love to hear your perspective in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe so we can keep exploring these cross-cultural quirks together.